You've been saving every dollar. Your piggy bank is full. Your savings account shows the exact same number it did 6 months ago. So why does it feel like you're getting poorer? Welcome to the invisible world of inflation, where your money doesn't disappear, but its power does. This is a story of how one teenager discovered that the game was rigged and what he did about it. Because understanding money young might be the most valuable superpower you'll ever develop. Marcus stared at his phone screen in disbelief. His savings account showed exactly $347.50, the same amount that had been there for the past 8 months. He'd been saving every penny of his allowance, birthday money, and cash from shoveling snow last winter. His goal? The new game console everyone was talking about. But when he checked the price online that Tuesday afternoon in December 2025, his heart sank. "Mom," he called out, walking into the kitchen. The console costs $450 now. It was $350 when I started saving. His mom looked up from her laptop, her expression a mix of sympathy and something else Marcus couldn't quite place. Understanding, maybe? "Welcome to inflation, buddy," she said. Marcus felt like he'd just entered a video game where the rules kept changing without anyone telling him. That night at dinner, Marcus couldn't stop thinking about it. His little sister Emma, who was 10, was complaining about something too. "The ice cream truck used to give me 2 scoops for $3, Emma said, pushing her broccoli around her plate. "Now it's only 1 scoop for $3. That's not fair. Have you noticed that the things you like to buy cost more now than they did a year ago?" Their dad set down his fork. "You know what? Let me show you both something." He pulled out his phone and opened a photo from 3 years ago, a grocery receipt. Then he showed them today's receipt for almost the exact same items. 2022 receipt, $67.43. 2025 receipt, $89.21. "Same stuff," Dad said. "Just costs more now." Marcus felt something click in his brain. It wasn't just the console. It wasn't just Emma's ice cream. Everything was getting more expensive, quietly and steadily, like water slowly rising in a bathtub. Marcus had been getting $12 a week in allowance for the past 2 years, ever since he turned 13. According to recent data, he was pretty average. His friends got anywhere from $10 to $15 weekly, and most of them, like Marcus, had to do chores to earn it. "When I was your age," his mom said during their conversation, "I got $5 a week, and I could buy a lot more with that than you can buy with $12 today." Marcus did the math in his head. In a year, he earned $624 in allowance. That sounded like a lot. But if prices were going up while his allowance stayed the same, so my allowance is basically getting smaller? Marcus asked. "In a way, yes," his dad explained. "The dollar amount is the same, but what that money can buy is less. That's what inflation means." Marcus decided to investigate. He was good at research. It was literally a skill he'd leveled up in school. He started with something he understood: video games. In 2020, most big new games cost $60. He remembered because that's when he'd saved up for his first major purchase, a game he'd wanted for months. But by 2025, those same types of games now cost $70, with some premium titles hitting $80. Do you remember what your favorite things cost a few years ago? He made a chart in his notebook. Then 2020. New game, $60. Movie ticket, $10. Large pizza, $14. Headphones, decent ones, $25. Hoodie, $30. Now, 2025. New game, $70 to $80. Movie ticket, $13. Large pizza, $18. Headphones, same quality, $30. Hoodie, $40. Marcus stared at the numbers. His allowance of $12 per week had stayed exactly the same since 2023. But in those 2 years, everything on his list had gotten more expensive. It was like playing a game where the difficulty kept increasing, but his character's stats stayed frozen. Emma wandered into Marcus's room that evening. "Are you doing homework?" she asked. "Sort of," Marcus said, "but it's about our money." He showed her his chart. Emma, who was surprisingly good at math for a 5th grader, immediately saw the pattern. So if we keep getting the same allowance, she said slowly, but everything costs more, we can buy less stuff than we could before? Exactly, Marcus said. Look, Mom and Dad give me $624 a year in allowance, right? But 2 years ago, I could have bought almost 11 new games with that. Now I can only afford about 8 or 9 games. The numbers told a clear story. According to data Marcus found, inflation has been running at about 3% in recent years. That might sound small, just 3 little percentage points, but adds up fast. If Marcus kept his $347.50 in savings without earning interest, and if he didn't add another penny to it, here's what would happen. Today, his money could buy $347.50 worth of stuff. In 5 years, that same money would only buy what $299 buys today. In 10 years, it would only buy what $258 buys today. That's like, my money is slowly turning invisible, Emma whispered. Marcus had another realization. He'd opened a savings account at the bank last year because his parents said it was the responsible thing to do. The bank paid him something called interest. Basically, they gave him a tiny bit of extra money just for keeping his savings there. He logged into his account to check. His interest rate, 0.5% per year. He pulled up the inflation rate, about 3% per year. Have you ever checked how much interest your savings account pays you? Marcus felt like he'd discovered a glitch in the system. The bank was giving him 0.5%, but prices were going up 3%. That meant his money was actually losing 2.5% of its buying power every year, even though the number in his account looked like it was growing. It was like running on a treadmill that kept speeding up while he stayed at the same pace. He wasn't moving forward. He was actually falling behind. The next day at lunch, Marcus brought up the topic with his friends. Does anyone else feel like their allowance doesn't go as far as it used to? He asked. Jake, who got $15 a week, nodded immediately. Dude, yes. I used to be able to buy lunch, a drink, and still have money left over. Now I can barely afford just a lunch. Priya pulled out her phone. I've been tracking my expenses for a year. My mom made me do it for a project. Look at this. She showed them her notes. In January, her $13 weekly allowance had bought her 2 trips to movies, 3 bubble teas, and a book. By December, that same $13 barely covered 1 movie and 2 bubble teas. Everything just costs more now, she said, and my allowance hasn't changed. According to recent surveys, kids aged 10 to 15 earn an average of $11 to $12 per week in allowance. Some get more, some get less. But here's the thing Marcus was realizing. Almost nobody's allowance was keeping up with how fast prices were rising. That night, Marcus asked his grandpa about money when he was a kid. Grandpa loved talking about the old days. Well, when I was 13, that would have been 1975. I got $2 a week in allowance, Grandpa said. And you know what? That felt like a lot of money. Marcus did some quick research on his phone. $2 in 1975 had the same buying power as about $11.50 in 2025. That meant his grandpa's allowance was roughly the same as his, adjusted for inflation. But here's what was different. In grandpa's time, savings accounts paid way more interest. Sometimes 5%, 7%, even 10% per year. That meant if grandpa saved his money, it actually grew faster than prices were rising. Your savings account pays 0.5%. Grandpa said, shaking his head, that's barely anything. In my day, your money could actually grow while sitting in the bank. Over the next week, Marcus started noticing inflation everywhere, like when you learn a new word and suddenly see it in every book you read. His favorite YouTube snacks that used to be $1.99, now $2.79. The birthday money his aunt always sent him, $1.20, used to feel generous. Now it bought maybe 2/3 of what it used to. Movie tickets went from $10 to $13. Even the arcade that he and his friends loved raised their token prices. Where he used to get 20 tokens for $10, now he only got 16 tokens. When was the last time you noticed something you buy regularly cost more than it used to? The scariest part wasn't that prices went up. It was how quietly it happened. No one announced it. No breaking news. No dramatic moment. Just slow, steady increases that most people barely notice until they look back. Marcus thought about all the adults who said things like, kids these days don't know the value of money. But maybe it wasn't that kids didn't understand. Maybe it was that the value of money itself kept changing. Saturday morning, Marcus counted his savings again. $347.50. By his calculations, if he kept saving $12 a week with no increase, it would take him another 9 weeks to afford the $450 console. But what if in those 9 weeks, the console price went up again? What if, by the time he saved enough, the price was $500? He felt like he was in a race where the finish line kept moving further away no matter how fast he ran. Emma burst into his room. Marcus, the craft supplies I wanted for my art project went up by $3 since last week. How is that fair? It wasn't fair. But Marcus was beginning to understand it wasn't about fairness. It was about how the economy worked, how money worked, how the whole system was designed. And the problem was, nobody had explained these rules to them. That evening, Marcus sat down with his parents for a serious talk. He brought his notebook, his charts, his research. I need to understand something, he said. My allowance is $12 a week. It's been $12 a week for 2 years. But everything costs more now. So technically, I'm earning less than I was before, even though the number is the same. His parents exchanged a look. His mom smiled, but it was a proud smile, not a dismissive one. You're absolutely right, she said. That's exactly how inflation works. And you just learned something that some adults don't fully understand. So what do I do about it? Marcus asked. Just accept that my money is worth less every year? His dad leaned forward. Here's the thing, Marcus. Understanding the problem is the first step. Now you can start thinking about solutions. What would you do if you realized your savings were losing value? Over the next hour, Marcus and his parents talked about options. Real options, not just save more money or spend less. Option 1. Negotiate an inflation-adjusted allowance. You could ask us to increase your allowance by about 3% each year, his mom suggested. That would keep your buying power roughly the same. Marcus did the math. A 3% increase on $12 would be about 36 cents per week. Not huge, but it would add up. In a year, that would be an extra $18.72. Option 2. Find ways to earn more. His dad pointed out that Marcus was old enough to do extra jobs beyond his regular chores. Babysitting Emma, helping neighbors with yard work, or tutoring younger kids in subjects he was good at. Some of your friends probably earn money outside of allowance, Dad said. That's not affected by your base allowance staying the same. Option 3. Make your money work harder. That 0.5% interest rate is terrible, his mom admitted, but there are accounts that pay more. Some youth savings accounts are paying 4 to 5% right now. That won't be inflation completely, but it's much better than what you're getting. Marcus learned about something called high-yield savings accounts. Some of them paid 10 times more interest than his current bank. Option 4. Invest in yourself. The best investment is in skills, his dad said. Learn things that will help you earn more in the future. The ability to make money grows faster than any savings account. Marcus did more research and discovered some surprising facts. According to recent studies, American kids and teens like him collectively earned about $26 billion in a recent year from allowances, chores, and gifts. That was a lot of money. But here's what got interesting. Kids save an average of 42% of their allowances. That was way more than adults, who only saved about 8% of their income. So kids are actually better at saving than grown-ups? Emma asked when Marcus shared this fact. Seems like it, Marcus said. But if we're better at saving and inflation is eating away at our savings, we're kind of getting punished for being responsible. At school on Monday, Marcus shared what he'd learned with his lunch group. Everyone had different reactions. Jake decided to ask his parents for an inflation adjustment to his allowance. I'll present them with data, he said, like a business proposal. Priya was already ahead of the curve. My parents give me a raise every year on my birthday, she said. They said it's to account for inflation and because I'm taking on more responsibilities. Their friend Alex had a different approach. "I'm just going to work more," Alex said. "I started a dog walking business with my brother. We charge $15 per walk, and we do about 6 to 8 walks a week. That's way more than allowance." But their friend Taylor looked worried. "My family can't afford to give me more allowance," Taylor said quietly. "My parents are dealing with the same inflation we are. Their paychecks aren't going up as fast as prices either." That hit Marcus hard. He'd been so focused on his own money situation that he hadn't thought about how inflation was affecting everyone differently. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what Taylor had said. If inflation was making it harder for kids to buy things, it was probably making it even harder for families who were already struggling. He thought about the school lunch program, where some kids got reduced price or free meals. If food prices were going up, that program had to cost more to run. He thought about families who lived paycheck to paycheck. If everything cost more, but their paycheck stayed the same, do you know anyone whose family has been affected by prices going up? Inflation wasn't just about whether Marcus could afford a game console. It was about whether families could afford groceries, rent, medicine, electricity, all the important stuff. Marcus realized that his $347.50 in savings was both a privilege and a lesson. Many kids his age had zero savings. Some kids his age had parents who had zero savings. The next day, Marcus had an idea. He started a group chat with his friends called the Inflation Investigators. Their first case study, video game prices. "Okay, so check this out," Marcus typed. "In 2020, new games cost $60. In 2025, they cost $70 to $80. That's a 17 to 33% increase in just 5 years. Priya responded immediately, "But our allowances haven't gone up 17 to 33%. "Exactly," Marcus wrote back. "So either we buy fewer games, or we have to save longer for each one, or we have to find other ways to earn money." Alex added, "Or we wait for sales and buy used games." Jake chimed in, "Or we pool our money and share games." They were adapting, finding workarounds. But Marcus wondered, should they have to? Was this just how the economy worked? Or was something broken about the system? After talking with his parents, Marcus decided to move his money to a high-yield savings account that paid 4.5% interest instead of 0.5%. It wasn't much, but it made a difference. On his $347.50, here's what it meant. Old account, 0.5% interest. Interest earned in 1 year, $1.74. Total after 1 year, $349.24. New account, 4.5% interest. Interest earned in 1 year, $15.64. Total after 1 year, $363.14. That was an extra $13.90 per year just for switching accounts. It still didn't beat inflation completely, but it was closer. "You're thinking like an investor now," his dad said proudly. "I'm thinking like someone who doesn't want to lose money while trying to save money," Marcus replied. Emma decided to run a lemonade stand that weekend. She'd done it before, charging 50 cents per cup, but this time she did what Marcus taught her. She calculated her costs first. Lemons, $4.99 for a bag, used to be $3.49. Sugar, $3.99, used to be $2.99. Cups, $5.99 for a pack, used to be $4.99. Total cost, $14.97. If I charge 50 cents per cup and make 40 cups, I'll earn $20, Emma calculated. That's only $5.02 profit after costs. Last year, my profit would have been $8.56 with the same number of cups. What would you do? Keep prices the same and earn less, or raise prices and risk selling fewer cups? Emma decided to charge 75 cents per cup. She made a sign explaining that her costs had gone up, so her prices had to go up too. She drew a smiley face on the sign and wrote, "Thanks for understanding. I'm also dealing with inflation." She sold all 40 cups. Some customers even gave her extra as a tip, saying they appreciated her honesty. So I basically did what the console company did to you, Emma said to Marcus later. Raised my prices because my costs went up. Yeah, Marcus said, and I bet some customers thought it was too expensive and didn't buy any. A few, Emma admitted, but most people understood. It was a mini economics lesson happening at a lemonade stand. 2 weeks after his initial conversation, Marcus prepared a presentation for his parents. He used Google Slides, charts, and everything he'd learned. Slide 1, the problem. My allowance has been $12 per week since 2023. Inflation has averaged 3% per year. My buying power has decreased by approximately 6% over 2 years. Slide 2, the evidence. Video games, up 17%. Movie tickets, up 30%. Snacks and treats, up 20 to 40%. Craft supplies for hobbies, up 15 to 25%. Slide 3, the proposal. Increase allowance to $12.75 per week, 6.25% increase to account for past inflation. Annual inflation adjustment of 3% going forward. Maintain current chore requirements. Slide 4, the alternative. I can earn the difference through additional work, but an inflation adjustment would be fair for the work I'm already doing. His parents sat through the whole presentation. When Marcus finished, his mom was smiling. That was impressive, she said. We'll agree to a $12.50 per week allowance, his dad said. That's a 4.2% increase, and we'll review it every year. If you continue to show this level of financial awareness and responsibility, we'll consider inflation adjustments. Marcus felt like he'd just won a major boss battle in a video game. Word spread through Marcus's school about a successful allowance negotiation. Soon, other kids were having similar conversations with their parents. Some parents agreed to increases. Some couldn't afford it, but helped their kids find extra earning opportunities. Some families sat down together to talk about inflation and budgeting as a household issue, not just a kid issue. Marcus's economics teacher caught wind of the trend and dedicated a whole week to teaching about inflation, purchasing power, and personal finance. You know, Mr. Peterson said in class, most schools don't teach this stuff until high school or college, if at all. But it affects you right now. Your allowances, your part-time job earnings, your savings, they're all subject to the same economic forces that affect adults. Why do you think schools don't teach more about how money actually works? 3 months after his initial discovery, Marcus checked his progress. His new allowance of $12.50 per week had given him an extra $6.50 over the previous 12 weeks. Combined with birthday money from his grandparents, $50, and payment for helping his neighbor clean out their garage, $40, he now had $494. The console? Still $450. He'd finally reached his goal. But something interesting had happened. Marcus had spent those 3 months learning so much about money that he wasn't sure he wanted the console anymore. Hear me out, he told his friends at lunch. If I buy the console for $450, I'm back to having $44 in savings. But if I invest that $450 in an account that pays 4.5% interest, in 1 year, I'll have $470.25. Then I could buy the console and still have money left over. But the console might cost even more by then, Jake pointed out. True, Marcus said, but I'd have practiced patience and discipline. Plus, I'd have proven to myself that I can make my money work for me instead of just spending it. Emma, who was sitting with them, chimed in, That's very mature, Marcus. Also, the newer console model might be out by then, and this one might be cheaper. Marcus laughed. His little sister was getting it too. That evening, Marcus's family had dinner together as usual. But the conversation was different now. Everyone was more aware of money. Not in a stressed or worried way, but in an understanding way. Did you know, Marcus said, that throughout history, money has always been kind of weird? Like, sometimes it's been shells or rocks or pieces of metal or paper that represents gold or paper that represents nothing except the government's promise that it has value. His dad nodded. And now a lot of it is just numbers on a screen. Right, Marcus said. So inflation is like, the value we all agree money has is slowly shifting. We're all playing a game together, and the rules keep changing based on how much money exists, how much stuff exists to buy, and how much people are willing to pay. If money is just something we all agree is value, what happens when that agreement keeps changing? The important thing, his mom said, is that you've learned to adapt. You didn't just complain that things were unfair, although they are sometimes. You learned how the system works and figured out strategies to navigate it. Marcus and his friends created a shared document with everything they'd learned. They called it the Youth Guide to Not Getting Ripped Off by Inflation. Section 1, Know the Signs. Prices going up on things you buy regularly. Your savings buying less over time. Adults complaining about gas, groceries, and rent. News mentions of interest rates and Federal Reserve. Section 2, Protect your money. Move savings to high-yield accounts. Ask for allowance increases that match inflation. Find ways to earn more. Within reason, school comes first. Learn to distinguish between wants and needs. Section 3. Think long-term. Money sitting still is money losing value. Invest in skills that will help you earn more later. Understand that saving is important, but so is making smart decisions about what to do with savings. Consider whether buying something now or waiting and letting your money grow makes more sense. Section 4. Don't panic. Everyone deals with inflation, kids and adults. The economy goes through cycles. Learning about money young gives you an advantage later. Some things are still worth buying even if they cost more, like experiences with friends. By summer, Marcus had developed a reputation at school as the money kid. Friends asked him for advice. Some parents even asked him to talk to their children about financial responsibility. He never did buy that console. The price had stayed at $450, but a new model was announced for $500 with better features. Marcus decided to wait for reviews. His savings account now had $712. He continued earning $12.50 per week in allowance, had mowed lawns all spring for extra cash, and had even helped his neighbors set up a smart home system for $100. Most importantly, he'd learned something valuable. Understanding how money works was more powerful than having a lot of money. Emma had her own savings now, too. $143 from her lemonade stands, allowance, and birthday money. She'd open a high-yield savings account like Marcus's. I'm saving for a really good art set, she said. But I'm also letting my money grow a little before I buy it. What are you saving for? And have you thought about whether waiting might actually help you afford something better? Mr. Peterson invited Marcus to give a presentation to several classes about his inflation investigation. Marcus was nervous. Public speaking wasn't his favorite, but he felt like he had something important to share. The thing about inflation, Marcus told a room full of his peers, is that nobody teaches you about it until you're already losing money. Adults assume we're too young to understand or that we don't need to know, but we're the ones saving birthday money and allowances. We're the ones watching our buying power disappear. He showed his charts and graphs. He explained the video game price increases, the savings account interest rates, the purchasing power calculations. So what do we do? A sixth grader asked. We adapt, Marcus said. We learn. We ask questions. We don't just accept that that's how things are. And we start making smarter decisions about money now, while the stakes are lower. A girl in the back raised her hand. But isn't this stuff adults should worry about? We're just kids. Marcus smiled. That's exactly what I thought 6 months ago. But here's the thing. Every dollar you save right now, every financial decision you make, every habit you develop, it all matters. The earlier you understand how money works, the better prepared you'll be when you're older and the numbers are bigger. That night, as Marcus updated his savings spreadsheet, yes, he had a spreadsheet now, he reflected on everything he'd learned. Inflation wasn't evil. It wasn't even necessarily bad. It was just a feature of how modern economics worked. Sometimes it was higher, sometimes lower. Sometimes savings accounts paid enough interest to beat it. Sometimes they didn't. The problem wasn't inflation itself. The problem was that nobody had explained it to kids. Nobody had taught them that the $20 birthday check from Grandma would buy less next year than it did this year. Nobody had warned them that savings accounts might pay so little interest that their money was actually losing value while sitting safely in the bank. But now Marcus knew, and Emma knew, and their friends knew, and that knowledge was worth more than any amount of money sitting in a savings account, because it would help them make better decisions for the rest of their lives. What will you do differently now that you understand how inflation affects your money? Exactly 1 year after his initial discovery, Marcus sat down to write in a journal his mom had given him. "Dear future Marcus," he wrote, "a year ago, I was frustrated because I couldn't afford a game console. Today, I have more money than I did then. But more importantly, I understand money in a way I never did before. I learned that numbers on a screen don't tell the whole story. Value is constantly shifting. Knowledge is more powerful than cash. Asking questions is more important than accepting things as they are. Even kids can understand complex economic concepts if someone takes the time to explain. My advice to you, future Marcus, keep learning, keep questioning, keep adapting. The world will keep changing, and your money will keep changing with it. But if you stay aware and keep educating yourself, you'll always be ahead of the curve. Also, you still haven't bought that console. Maybe it's time, or maybe you found something better to do with your money. Either way, I trust you to make the right call. Sincerely, past Marcus, who is now way smarter about money." He closed the journal and checked his savings account one more time, $934. The console still cost $450. He could buy it twice over now if he wanted. But Marcus had learned something more valuable than any video game could teach him. Patience, knowledge, and understanding were the real power-ups in life. The question isn't just what will you buy? The question is, what will you do with what you know? Inflation affects everyone, but those who understand it early have a lifetime advantage. Now you know. What will you do with this knowledge? If you like this kid story, make sure you like this video and share and subscribe this channel. See you in next video.